Hello, and welcome to Wesley United Methodist Church of Trenton, Missouri. Our church is located at 113 East 9th Street, which is on the corner of 9th and Washington in Trenton, Missouri. You can call our office between the hours of 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, Monday through Friday at 660-359-6762, or visit our website at wesleyunitedmethodist.us. Now we invite you to open your heart, mind, and body to the Word of God with Reverend Barry Boulware.
Here's an old story that you know well. It's found in the book of Genesis, the 37th chapter, and I begin with the 15th verse. When Joseph arrived at Shechem, a man found him wandering around in the fields and asked him, "What are you looking for?" He replied, "I'm looking for my brothers. Can you tell me where they are grazing the flocks?" "They've moved on from here," the man answered. I heard them say, "Let's go to Dothan." So Joseph went after his brothers and found them near Dothan. But they saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him. "Here comes that dreamer," they said to each other. "Come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of the cisterns and say that a ferocious animal devoured him. Then we'll see what comes of his dreams." When Reuben heard this, he tried to rescue Joseph from their hands. "Let's not take his life," he said. "Don't shed any blood. Throw him into the cistern here in the desert, but don't lay a hand on him." Reuben said this to rescue him from them and take him back to their father. So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the richly ornamented robe he was wearing, and they took him and threw him into the cistern. Now the cistern was empty. There was no water in it. As they sat down to eat their meal, they looked up and saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead. Their camels were loaded with spices, balm, and myrrh, and they were on their way to take them to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, "What will we gain if we kill our brother and cover up his blood? Come, let's sell him to the Ishmaelites and not lay our hands on him. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood." And the rest of the brothers agreed. So when the Midianites came by, his brothers pulled Joseph up out of the cistern and sold him for 20 shekels of silver to the Ishmaelites, who took him on to Egypt. When Reuben returned to the cistern and saw that Joseph was not there, he tore his clothes. He went back to his brothers and said, "The boy isn't there. Where can I turn now?" Then they got Joseph's robe, slaughtered a goat, and dripped the blood of the goat onto the robe. They took the ornamented robe back to the father and said, "We found this. Examine it to see whether it is your son's robe." He recognized it and he said, "It is my son's robe. Some ferocious animal must have devoured him. Joseph has surely been torn into pieces." May God bless this reading of his holy written word. Please be seated. This is the final message in this series of messages that deal with original intent, a forgotten concept. We've come a long way. I'm very proud of you for staying so close to these messages. In 3 decades of preaching, I've never had more people get in touch with me than have gotten in touch with me during this series of messages. I know we have struck a bell here, and the input has been positive. These are things that we need to know, and in large part, America is forgetting them. And before we know it, they can be forgotten forever. We must do something about that. The first amendment: Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Succinctly, 1, no national church. The people had that in England. They didn't want that here in America. 2, Governments shall not inhibit religious expression. This isn't complicated. It's not confusing. It's not even controversial. For the first 166 years of American history, as I've shared with you before, with direct quotations from both the Congress and the Supreme Court, during that 166 years, time and again, both Congress and the Supreme Court went on record and declared that this is a Christian nation. Their words, not mine. And that the First Amendment keeps the government out of the church and does not inhibit the free exercise of religious expression. That is not arguable. And as Americans, we need to know that and to say that. It is not arguable. It is history. It is as much history and truth in history as if to say Jim and Mary Boulware conceived and gave birth to a son they named Barry. It's fact. It's history. And both Congress and the Supreme Court, time and time again, reaffirmed what that First Amendment is and what Jefferson meant, even in his letter to the Danbury Baptist, where he said, "You have no worry, Baptist. There is a wall that separates government from interfering with religion. No one can stand and say differently. And if someone would, go back and review history. Go back to the original documents. Go back to the letters that were written by the founders to the founders that dealt with these issues. It is not debatable. A lot of things, most things in life are debatable. What I'm sharing with you is not debatable. As we browse through the Bill of Rights, and keep in mind, what are the Bill of Rights? Well, the first 10 amendments. They were written by these founders. The first 10 amendments that the founders wrote, listen to how clear they are written. I'm just scanning some from each of the amendments, okay? And the First Amendment that we're talking about here has several things in it. Freedom of speech, no less, as well. Here are some of the things in these first 10 amendments. Freedom of speech, freedom of the press, the right to assemble, the right to petition the government, the right to keep and bear arms, the right from unreasonable search and seizure, the right to not be tried twice for the same offense, the right of a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury. Those are your Bill of Rights. And each and every one of those rights are written to keep the government out. Out. Don't overstep your bounds, Mr. Government. We, the people, have these freedoms and these rights, and we will keep you at arm's bay. And one of those rights is the free exercise of religion.